For a very long time, I was scratching my head trying to make sense of the very unlogical things that's happening in South Africa. We live in a democracy, I said to myself. We have more or less a capitalist system, I said to myself. The job of a government is to take the country and its people forward, I said to myself. So why am I seeing things that looks like it's not that? And I think your eyes saw the same thing. Um, and it's that question then. If it's all these things, democratic, more or less capitalist, then why does it look like we sit with an incompetent government that's not capable of taking this country in a positive direction for its people? And then, dear friends, I discovered this book. It will be probably in mirror view for you, but it's called Countdown to Socialism, the National Democratic Revolution in South Africa since 1994 by Dr. Anthea Jeffery. And it all made sense. All the questions of, but how can, but why, all those things disappeared because this book explains very well what's happening. The government is not useless. They don't let things slide. They are following a very well thought out, methodical, precise plan. So grab your coffee and let's get into it.
Radio Nuwe, your Christian lifestyle radio station. Chat with Corné. We scratch where it itches.
Good day, you beautiful people. Welcome to Chat with Corné. My name is Corné, and together we will explore powerful alternatives in governance or in government, in economics, in training, and in health, all through the lens of a Christian worldview. Now, today I'm very, very excited about this whole topic, not because it's a nice topic, but because it's a necessary one, I think. And I can remember very clearly when I discovered this book, The Countdown to Socialism by Dr. Anthea Jeffery. It just was like a big aha, and everything made sense. It's still not an answer of what to do, but at least you can make sense of what you see, what's happening here. And it was a great day for me when I discovered that, this book and worked through the book. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. So my idea is to do a little intro today about this whole topic of the National Democratic Revolution in South Africa, the plan that's at work, and then from next time, maybe the week after that or the episode after that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the specifics, in different fields. So let's start with a little just, who is this lady? Dr. Anthea Jeffery, who is she? She holds law degrees from Wits, Cambridge, and London universities. She's written around 12 books, including this one, obviously, one about the, she calls it the People's War, which we may touch on next week, maybe. And then also one about BEE and the whole thing around that. And is it helping South Africa or is it hurting South Africa? And she's also written extensively on things like the mining sector, like land reforms, and also then obviously the national health insurance, which is a big thing, or the proposed national health insurance. She is also the head of policy research at the Institute of Race Relations. And as you know, as you look through my programs, you'll see that I'm a big fan of their work. And I've spoken to quite a few of their personnel in different fields there. So this book covers eventually 17 different policy fields. And the the influence of the National Democratic Revolution on those fields, and we'll look at that later. For today, just a quick overview to give us a kind of a grounding to start off from, or a base to start off from. Like I said, this is not a thing of the government being incompetent. They are following a plan, and you need to know this because most people that I'm aware of say they're useless, they don't know what they're doing, they can't do. It is not that. It is deliberate. So to go back a bit, this whole plan, the National Democratic Revolution, is not a new thing. It started in the 1950s already in the Soviet Union. They came up with the idea of how do they take the Asian and African countries from where they are, the colonies, from where they are, how do they move them through democracy into socialism, into communism? And this plan, according to them, is the quickest and shortest route to do that. So that is what the aim is of this thing, is to take a country through the steps of being democratic, then being socialist, eventually communist. Now, you would say, well, that's a dumb idea because, I mean, it did not work for the Soviet Union. And of course, you're correct. But if you think about the allies or the friends of our government, if you think about all their friends internationally, these names might pop up every now and again. Places like Soviet Union, People's Republic of China, Cambodia, North Korea, Cuba, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, those are the countries which have tried this thing properly. And it's not succeeded anywhere, we think. But obviously they don't think so. So communism obviously died in 1991 in the Soviet Union. It was displaced with the Russian Federation then. The Communist Party was dissolved. But the idea of communism did not die. There was always these left-leaning academics, reporters, society organizations, journalists, and they kept on pushing this whole idea of socialism and communism. And in our country, Joe Slovo, at that stage, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, the Communist Party in this country, South African Communist Party, and the ANC are in bed together. They are very interconnected. Joe Slovo said that socialism was not dead. Even after the fall of the Soviet Union and the fall of the Berlin Wall, he said it's not dead. And so they said, well, how do you explain the falling of the Soviet Union? They said, well, they did not do it correctly. They made it too bureaucratic and not democratic enough. Now you might say to yourself, well, that sounds like a good plan. If you can get socialism or communism, but with more democracy, it's an awkward concept, but it makes sense of if you don't have a lot of bureaucrats and people doing it properly, then it will work. Now, once again, look through the history of the world, and then we say to ourselves, why did it not work there? Because this is the pattern. What happens is a country turns socialist and the world goes, yes, good job, for the people. It's always for the people. Then you have to start ignoring when the bureaucratic stuff starts happening. Then it always moves into serious mass murders. Just to give you an idea, they guess around, or estimate, not guess, they estimate around 100 million people were murdered in those countries that I have mentioned in the pursuit of getting a proper working system, socialist. So now the country moves from socialist, everybody's glad, it starts with the murders, and you can ignore it or talk it down for a while, but eventually you cannot ignore it anymore. And then you say, but they didn't do it properly. See, it's never been done properly because it can't be done properly. Democratic socialism is not a concept that could work in practice. And if you read this book, you'll see all the detail of why. But one short answer, dear friends, is this. You cannot go socialist, which means somewhere you'll need to start forcing people to take their hard-earned money or businesses or whatever, but their stuff, their personal stuff, you will have to force them to give it to other people. It needs to happen. That is socialist. And eventually it gets corrupted, and it always does. And then it gets messy, it gets murderous, it gets a lot of things. And I'm going to read you a quote out of this book. Then you tell me, does this not sound like South Africa this very moment? Of what happens. It's like the little road, and you cannot sidestep this road, apparently. It's not it's not in the human heart to do this. So it's talking about the government here of a socialist country now. It says, having gained this unprecedented power, the ruling party inevitably seeks to retain it. Even if it chooses to maintain a facade of democracy, its real aim is to circumvent constitutional restraints, repress opposition parties, prevent genuine elections, indoctrinate the population, control the media, and turn the courts into its pliant instruments. Every single one of these things are true in this country, this very moment. The ruling party also uses its dominance to direct resources to favored groups and advance its own financial interests. Enormous wealth and authority flow to the few at the top of the hierarchy, the most senior leaders in the party's Politburo, entrenching their rule. This is such a picture-perfect picture of South Africa at this very stage. And it can't go any other way. That is the route that you follow when you start down this road of socialism. So eventually it ends up like that every time. Socialism is always bureaucratic, or it turns into that. It is always inefficient, corrupt, repressive, unequal, undemocratic to its core. And people forget this. They forget that. We forget the history because we don't teach the history anymore to that level. So young people do not know about this. They know about the 100 million people that died in the attempt to turn their countries communist. What they learn about is the Nazis and the death camps and those things, all those atrocities, which is bad. It's not, but it pales in comparison to what has happened against humanity in socialist states. So socialism is sold as equality, as social justice, as caring for the needy. It's always for the people. And this is a quote from Chris Hani, at that stage also the General Secretary of the SACP. He said, socialism is about decent shelter for those who are homeless. It's about water for those without decent or safe drinking water. It's about health care. It's about life of dignity for the old, and about a decent education for all our people. Always for our people. It sounds noble, but it never turns out that way in practice. It never happens in socialism. Why? Because the government does not really care about the people. If you think about what they say, is what will they do for the people? There's no plan to uplift people out of poverty and plans for human flourishing. The plans are you can stay in your shack. We'll give you SASSA. We'll give you free school. All those things. We'll keep you where you are and happy there. There's nothing about getting them out of there to go pay your own school fee, pay your own doctor, build your own house, or buy your own house somewhere. There's not a plan for that. And even if the government say that they will do these things, we will give you food, we will give you houses and free schools, inevitably, they are so inefficient and corrupt that this does not happen. They cannot care for the basic needs of the people of the country. And then obviously the other problem is that people can see with their eyes. They sit where we sit now and we say, but How is this possible that people can cling to an idea that's been dead for yonkers in every country that's tried it? I mean, do we want to be Venezuela? Do we want to be Zim? Do we want to be Cuba? Which country do you want to be? And if you chose China, well, China is not communist really anymore. There's aspects of it socially, but the economic system is an open market system. They've changed that years ago. That's why they are rocking and rolling in the economy department. So, and we do not have to just look around and think we see differently in the world when we look at the world at large. There is very clear statistical data on this. I'll post a link because I've got a podcast about this very report, one of the reports, but the Heritage Foundation and the Fraser Institute, one is in America, one is in Canada. They've done research in more than 100 countries over 40 years. And there is no doubt about what's happening. There is a staggering difference between the per capita GDP of countries where it's more capitalist or more socialist. In the more capitalist countries, that is 8 times higher than in the more socialist countries. 8 times higher. It is a ridiculous difference. If you compare them, once again, I'll put the link here, it is crazy to see that the lowest income levels in the more capitalist systems are better off than most of the majority of the socialist systems. It is just the nature of it, dear friends. So where does the NDR now, the National Democratic Revolution, where does it fit into all of this? I'm glad you asked. And we'll start with that in the next, or maybe the episode after that. This was just a very brief intro of this is not a new plan. It's been coming since the 1950s out of systems that we do not agree with because we can see it did not work anywhere. But our country is dead set on we are doing this, and they are following it, and unfortunately, they are successful in it. They are successful with a plan. And for the details, you'll need to tune in next time because I told you that we are going to be looking at around 17 key policy areas. And in each of those areas, we'll ask ourselves, so what are the NDR aims for those categories? What are they trying to do there? Also, what have they done in that field? And then thirdly, what was the result of that? And every time when we look at that, you will go, I can see now why the judicial system is a mess, why road works, why it's a mess, why the water works is a mess. Whatever you look at, those 17 key areas where the NDR has been implemented, it turned into a mess. And it's not a mystery to why. And I'm so excited to go through this with you. So that is the brief intro for today, dear friends. I've got the microphone here, but this discussion is not complete without you. So I would appreciate it if you would contact me with whatever you have in mind, you know, when you, if you have questions or feedback or ideas or whatever, you comment on this, you can do that by contacting me. That's our website, also where the radio station is, if you see this on YouTube only. But we also have a website and contact details where you can contact me directly. You can send a WhatsApp or Telegram message to that number there, 062 336 5330. Or if you want to send me an email, radio@radionivelit.com, and then I will respond to you. Until next time, dear friends, please keep asking questions, keep seeking the truth, and stay anchored in Christ.
Soos met 'n goeie film, is musiek die mees belangrike faktor wat die atmosfeer van jou troudag sal bepaal. Dit maak of breek. Van die oomblik wat jou gaste opdaag totdat die dansvloer sluit, sal Music for Weddings sorg dat jou persoonlike liefdesverhaal die perfekte lewende of opgeneemde klankbaan het. Vind meer uit by musicforweddings.co.za. Hulle het pakkette beskikbaar vir elke smaak en begroting. Bespreek SA se heel beste troumusiekverskaffer. Radio Nuwe.
Your Christian lifestyle radio station.